Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 30 of Inbound Now. I'm your host, David Wells, and with me today is a very special guest, Mr. DJ Waldow. Welcome to the show, DJ.
Thank you so much. A lot of pressure to match that energy and enthusiasm. I think I'm up for the challenge, though.
Yeah. This is my TV. I'm actually really, monotone in person. But I'm on camera, right? So I gotta get out there and
get after it. I like it,
right? I drank a lot of coffee before this, so that's my other secret. But so DJ Waldow, he was formerly the director of community at Blue Sky Factory. He's worked at Bronto, an email service provider. He's a professional speaker in the social media and email marketing industry. He has a great blog over at Social Media Guy Butterfly or Social Butterfly Guy.
SocialButterflyGuy.com,
right.
That's right.
And he is also in charge of Project Awesome, which we'll dive into a little bit later in the interview here. So welcome to the show, man.
All right, great to be here.
Cool. So I wanted to get you on to really dive into your experience because you've worked at a lot of email marketing companies. So I want to get some of your insight on some of the best practices around that area, and then really dive into what it really means to be a community manager. Yep. And what companies should be thinking about when they're actually looking to kind of fill that role.
Sure, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So all right, so let's dive into email marketing. So you worked at Bronto and Blue Sky Factory, and you've been deeply engaged in the email marketing community for some time now. What are some of the biggest takeaways that you've learned over the years?
Well, I guess I think I probably started talking about this when I was at Bronto a few years ago, and it stuck with me through, I've really been doing email for about 6 years now, which in the email industry is probably quite a long time.
Yeah.
I talked to some folks who've done it over 10 years, but they're like the grandparents of email. I'm probably like the elder adult. But I think the key really is to send timely, targeted, valuable emails to people who want them. And it's a very easy statement to say as an email marketing, guy who talks about email marketing. It's easy to say. It's not necessarily easy to do. But I think if you think about those different components of that and taking it backwards, the first piece is really sending email to people that want it. And so that means people who have opted in, people who have raised their hand and said, yes, we want to get email from you. That's really one of the most important things, because if you want people to be engaged with your email and open it and click and share and convert, it's got to be something that they want to receive and are sort of excited about getting. But the other components of that too, the relevance and the timeliness, we all know those emails that we get that literally come in our inbox and you're excited about opening them. And whether it's a subject line that is really appealing, or it's a company or a brand where they provide valuable content all the time, you're going to open it. And I think too often what we do as email marketers is it's kind of like what a lot of companies do. Everybody thinks that their product or service kicks ass, right? Can I say ass? Yes. I hope I can say that word. You can say it on the radio. You can say it on this show, right?
Yeah.
But people think that their product and service is the best thing in the world, and that's great, and they should in a lot of ways. But you have to remember, just because you think that doesn't mean your subscribers in email are going to think that what you're offering is the best thing. So, keep in mind what is valuable to subscribers, not necessarily what you think is the most valuable. So that's kind of the broad picture, and we can dive into a lot more of that detail.
So basically, instead of talking, your email marketing channel really shouldn't be product focused at all, right? It should be more about providing educational content to kind of help your readers, right?
I'd say yes and no. It depends. You certainly, there's nothing wrong if you're a B2B. I'm sorry, a B2C, and you want to pitch your product. Let's say you're Banana Republic, and every email you send is about a new sale that you have. That's fine. That works for them. I think since we're talking to you, I think HubSpot tends to go on the other end of the spectrum and shares educational materials and ebooks and it uses email to promote webinars and educational pieces. I think that works too, but ultimately HubSpot's doing those things because you want more clients and you want more leads.
Well, there's always that ulterior motive, but I think it's a more we're helping people, and they might become a client, but mass marketing messages like JCPenney's, I guess it works, but is it because they're just doing it in mass quantities?
Well, in some ways, yeah. I mean, think about it. If you've got a list, I'll just use some big round numbers. You've got a list of 1 million. Well, I have to do math on 1 million. Let me just keep it simple. Let's say you have 1,000 and 10% of your list opens, which is a pretty low rate. But you've got 100 people open your email, and then half of those click, and a certain number buy. You've just paid for that email campaign. So, yeah, I think in some ways you're right that it is a volume game, and that you can send out a couple emails will easily pay for your overall campaign. But I think we all consume email differently. I use my wife as an example for this a lot. I mean, her favorite email is Sierra Trading Post, and I happen to know the folks that run the campaign over there. And I wouldn't say it's the prettiest. It's not the most well-designed email. It's not the most eye-appealing, eye-catching, but it works. My wife reads those emails, and she's not looking to be educated about the products that REI is selling. She doesn't care. She wants to know when she's ready to buy that, whatever that outdoor gear is, she's looking for that sale, or she's looking for the very targeted email that says, hey, I know that you bought this, maybe you might want to buy that. But again, I'm doing I've probably talked a lot so far about more the B2C space, but it really does depend. I think there's a balance. There's a balance to do both.
Gotcha. So what would be a good open rate in your mind, like for an email campaign? I guess it depends across industries, but
yeah, it totally depends, and you can get some good stats. Actually, Brightwave Marketing, Sims Jenkins out of Atlanta has a site called emails. I think it's called emailstats.com. You can just probably Google email stats, and it'll come up in the top results. But the average, the number that we bat around a lot is 20%. Is an average open rate, and that's just more again as like if you're above 20%, you're probably doing better than average. Below, you may want to think about it. But the reason it depends is I think if you do emails that are not segmented and not targeted, in other words, you just blast out the email to your whole list, which I don't think is the best idea, but it works for a lot of people.
Right.
Then your open rate is just based on that, and it's not all that interesting. I think what's interesting is when you start to really target and you say, when I was at Blue Sky, when I was at Bronte, we had clients who sent, and this is again a B2C example, but you can do it as I'll give it a B2B example as well. But as a B2C, you can say, everybody who has purchased something within the last 0 to 3 months, send to that list and track that list differently. It's 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months.
Right.
Over a year, and what that allows you to do is now I bet those open rates, it's kind of an inverse. As you get further out in the purchase cycle, the more the open rates are going to go down. But that's the number that's interesting to me, not the overall open rate. What's interesting is the people that just bought from you, they should be more likely to open that next email. And so I would start to track those numbers. And you think about, to give a B2B example, and I'll just say, I'll use HubSpot. HubSpot sends an email about a webinar. The advice I would give is the people that don't sign up for that webinar or don't open that email, you send a follow-up to just that segment. And now all of a sudden your original open rate of, let's say, 20%, you get an additional 10% that opened that email. Combine those two and do some fuzzy math, you've got a something higher than 20% open rate.
Gotcha. Cool. So how important would you say, like, the subject line of the email? Because, I mean, that's what people see. That's what I would think would be the catalyst if they're going to open it or not, right?
Yeah, so when I think of open rate, there are two things that drive an open. Well, there's kind of three, and some of them combine together. But you nailed the first one, the subject line. I mean, if you send me a subject line either has to be, this is all stuff that can be tested. That's the beauty of email. So if you send me a subject line that is appealing enough for me to open it, because remember, people scan their inboxes. I had 100 emails in my inbox today. I'm looking for the subject line that says, we want to hire you today, or we want to pay you $1 million today. So you scan your inbox, and those are the emails you're more likely to open. But again, that can all be done through testing, because I've been proven wrong hundreds of times where the generic July email newsletter as a subject line works. But that's the first thing, is subject line. The second thing is trust and knowing the sender. So if I get an email from, I'll use my wife as an example, she gets Sierra Trading Post, she knows what the content of those emails is going to be, and she knows that she's purchased from them before and it's valuable to her. So she's more likely to open a message from Sierra Trading Post. Take that even on a personal level. I get an email from you. Now that we know each other, I'm more likely to open that email. And so I've seen some things that are interesting. In fact, HubSpot does this, and Marketing Profs, where you use a lot of times the person's name, comma, HubSpot. And Marketing Profs does that too. So it'll be Ann Hanley, comma, Marketing Profs.
Right.
And it's an interesting tactic because I think in some ways it depends on who that person is. There's a lot of recognizable names at HubSpot and Marketing Profs where you could probably get away with just sending the name, but I still trust the company overall more than the name. So I think that's important, the from name, and then sort of the hybrid of those two is if you get a from name that you really recognize and trust and know is valuable, and a subject line that's compelling. See if I can do this. You've got it. You're more likely to get it open. And then I guess what I'd call the third thing is really just the person like me who opens every email that lands in their inbox. But you can't really count on that.
Right. Cool. So you recently did a webinar. Where was it? It was building your list. I'm trying to find the title here. My notes are all scattered. You did a webinar with Chris Brogan, Peter Shankman, and Jason Keith about it was like the ultimate list building webinar. Something like that. But basically, the gist was, a marketer lives or dies by their marketing database, right? So what are some of the ways that, marketers out there listening can actively grow their lists?
Yeah, I think the number I just was at a conference here in Park City last weekend called Evo, and I ran this session, and we were talking about email marketing, growing your list, and we did this exercise with this group of people in the class, and I said, all right, go pick 5 random websites, companies that you like, that you trust, whatever it is. And I had somebody was a timekeeper, and I said, what I want you to do is go subscribe to their email newsletter. Go sign up. And so the timekeeper's job was to check how long it took to sign up. And I walked around the room, and then we shared the results afterwards. And what was fascinating was it's amazing how people hide the subscribe option. And so you want to know the number one way to grow your list. It's to put it on your website.
All right. So it's really that easy, putting it somewhere visible on your site is like kind of step one then.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I think people hide it too often. This exercise proved that people, they make it hard for you to subscribe. Or, the other things that we were going through this exercise, it's like, okay, then you subscribe, but they ask for 100 different fields to fill out. Or you don't get that welcome message right away, or it just is not clear that you even signed up. I've gone to plenty of sites where you go and sign up and you hit submit and you just wait. There's no redirect landing page that says thanks for signing up, or look in your inbox for a message from us. Nothing. Right. And so I share that because to me that's kind of like this duh. Of course you have a sign up on your website, but you'd be surprised at the number of companies that make it very, very difficult for you to sign up for their email. So, that really is 101 stuff, but it's something that people miss all the time.
Right. It would have to be visible above the fold on your highly trafficked pages, and otherwise it's hidden. It's like the golden rule of marketing, right? Make it as easy as possible for someone to do what you want them to do.
Exactly. And that being said, I do realize, I was talking to this group and some of them are web people, they do the website, and I said, I realize you got a lot of valuable real estate there, and there's only so much real estate that you can use. But and I think it's Jay Baer that talks about this a lot. Jay Baer from Convince and Convert. He uses the analogy that things like Facebook, it's rented space. Your email list, you own your email list. As much as you can possibly own something. But those are your email addresses, and you have to respect that email address. But Facebook changes their policy tomorrow, which they probably will. They've proven they have, or something else comes out. You don't own that stuff. In fact, I think with Google Plus now, it's the first site I've seen, or social network I should say that I've seen, where you can pull down your data. You can extract all of your conversations that you're having there. But that's the beauty of email, I think.
Gotcha. Cool. So, all right, switching gears a little bit into community management, because that's also something you have a ton of experience in. So you wrote a post on it was, I think it was a guest post somewhere, but it was, the director of community isn't just tweeting all day long, right? to
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of lay out what exactly a director of community does. So what are some of the main things that a director of community should be doing?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, and this just to be clear, this obviously differs per company, and director of community role in my world, at least when I was at Blue Sky, was doing all things social media. So there are companies that have a director of community and community managers and all sorts of different roles, but overall, no matter what you do, if your title has social media or community in it, you have to know how to communicate. And the communication can be in the form of writing, it can be speaking, it can be tweeting, it can be blog posts, it can be webinars, but you have to be able to, it can be stuff like that we're doing right now. You have to be able to have an intelligent conversation in various, different platforms. And I think too often that's the mistake, and people go and hire somebody who's really passionate about a product or a service. You're going to be our new community manager, but you're on the front lines. You have to be able to respond to a crisis. You have to be able to, to be able to write a blog post that's intelligent and legible and no spelling mistakes and no grammar mistakes. And that's why when people ask me, always say, well, I'll just hire an intern to do that, or I'll just hire, somebody out of college to do that. I'm not suggesting that an 18 or 19 or 22-year-old can't be a community manager, because I'm sure there certainly are some that could, but you have to have some kind of worldly experience to know how to handle yourself in those types of situations.
Right.
But the number one thing to me, I think, is you have to be able to write, speak, and generally communicate.
Cool. So when is the right time for a company to actually decide to, hire a community manager, or should they be training someone like internally or spreading it between a couple of different people, right?
I think you can definitely spread it amongst a lot of people. In fact, using Jay as an example of this again, and Jay and Amber Naslund wrote a book.
The Now Revolution.
Yeah, sorry, I just drew a blank on it, but the Now Revolution, and they talk about the future of community managers. And one of the things they say is, everybody's going to be a community manager at some point, because it's going to be ingrained in everything you do. And I keep giving HubSpot props, but it's true. Like, you guys have a lot of voices and faces of HubSpot. I think of Ellie and Rebecca and Mike and Brian. I mean, everybody there can speak intelligently, knows the product, knows about inbound marketing, all those things. And so, so to answer your question, when do you hire that person? I think if you're going to be serious about social media, and you're going to have a Twitter account, you're going to have a Facebook page, you're going to have a LinkedIn company profile, and you're committed to it, you're dedicated, you're all in, you're going to put effort into it and actually really make it be something more than just an occasional tweet. That, I think, when you've made that commitment, I think that's the time to hire somebody to really manage that, because you can't just half-ass it. I think you got to be all in when it comes to social media stuff.
Right. I mean, that if you're just half in, it kind of shows, right, with the lack of just being in part of the community, right? You're not responding. You're just kind of, even if it's like an automated Twitter account or something, like, people could tell. So. Well, and I wrote this guest post on Outspoken Media earlier, and it was about social and email and how they integrate. And one of the things I wrote in there is there's nothing worse than getting that email that says, follow us on Twitter. And you're all excited. You're like, oh, cool. They're going to be engaging and having conversations and all this fun stuff. And you click that Twitter icon, and you go over, and you're like, oh, last tweet was a month ago. Or, oh, every tweet is just their blog post. And so, you go from that excited as a subscriber that you're trusting this company, you're excited about it, and all of a sudden it's like, ah. Yeah. So, and we all know that. We've all been there. If you've been part of social media at all, you know that you've been to those places where it just nobody's doing anything. And I think that's when you need to be more serious about hiring somebody to do it full time. Gotcha. Cool. All right, so let's talk about Project Awesome. So you are currently on the job hunt, and you're using social media to do that. Can you tell us a little bit more about Project Awesome and what's your strategy? Yeah, okay, so I'll try to keep the intro of this brief, because the intro is not as exciting, I don't think, as what's happened since. But basically, I knew
on July 1st that I was no longer employed by Blue Sky Factory, and certain things I could and could not say. And so I knew that I wanted to write a blog post and say I'm available. And I've seen people do that before, and it's interesting, but if you're not hiring, who cares?
Right.
So I thought to myself, well, I got to do something that I want to have a role as a digital interactive marketing manager, VP, something like that. And I said, I'm going to practice what I preach, and I'm going to make this a hopefully a case study, or the social media experiment to be a case study. And so the first thing I did is I cashed in some of my social capital, if you will, and I reached out to Chris Penn, Chris Brogan, Peter Shankman, Jason Keith, Jason Falls, Jay Bear, Ann Handley, and a couple other folks. And I made it really simple. It was almost like blogger outreach in some sense. I made it really simple. I said, but I copied all, and I know they're all friends. So I copied them all in the email, so everybody was very visible and very open. And I said, I'm looking for a 30-second video clip from you of why people should hire me. And almost everybody in that group responded, and I put together this little montage of videos. And it's cool. I mean, it was Peter Shankman sitting on a New York City bus. He was one of my favorites because he basically is on this bus, and he's got, imagine he's got his iPhone in front of him, and he's sitting here. He goes, I hate the East Side. I hate da da da. And he goes, but that's not the point. He says, people ask me to do this stuff all the time, and I don't do it because most people suck. DJ doesn't. Yeah. From Peter Shankman was, I don't suck.
That's a good endorsement.
Right, it's better. Yeah, it's better than. And then Jason Keith did this whole Don Julio thing and this secret agent. I mean, it was fun. But I think what it did is it said, well, hey, if these guys are backing him and these guys would take 30 seconds to say why you should hire DJ, maybe I should look into it. And so two other things I did with this blog post, I created an interactive resume. So instead of what I would call just a boring standard 2-page Word document, this is what I did, raised X number of dollars, blah, blah, blah. I just basically did that similar thing, put it in it's almost like a PowerPoint presentation that I made as a PDF with links so you can see what I've written, where I've spoken before, and those different things. And then the third piece of it is I did that same interactive resume. I dumped it into iMovie and did a voiceover. So I used GarageBand and did a voiceover and just talked people through my resume. So I published that at 10:30 on Monday, July 11th. 3 days later, literally 3 days later, I have had, the numbers, I'm trying to think. So the resume I posted on SlideShare, it's close to 6,000 views of that resume so far. I've had, of the Hire Me video, there's been 600-700 views of that video. And I've had, I think at this point, over 60 people who have emailed or otherwise set up an interview to say, let's talk a little bit more about what you could do next.
Right. Cool. I mean, I think it's interesting what you're doing. You're definitely making it, like you said, the 2-page Word document resume, I think it's dead, and you have your own online space. You have all these social channels you're pointing people to, and you're basically laying out everything that you've done in a pretty engaging way. And cashing in that, talking with the experts, getting their backing as well. I mean, I think it's going to work out well for you.
And I didn't think about it at the time, but I think that first piece of getting those folks to say, this is why you should hire DJ, was really, it's the equivalent of having LinkedIn recommendations, but 30 seconds of like the video portion of it, somebody actually saying it instead of, and we all know video and pictures are a lot more powerful. I mean, that's why you and I are talking today instead of somebody reading this in a transcript.
Right, exactly. And it's, I mean, you use social media to find your job, like get your job at Blue Sky Factory too, right? This isn't like your first rodeo.
Yeah, actually, I never, Greg Cangelosi, the CEO at the time, I mean, we were back and forth really through DM, and he knew of me through different events, right. And I never once showed him a resume. In fact, I spoke with somebody today and they said, well, when you come in for the interview, can you bring a copy of your resume? I said, would you like me to print out the PDF version of the interactive resume? And I said, well, do you have like a regular resume? And I said, nope. And here's the deal, though. My thought is, and somebody said this to me, they go, well, there's certain companies that really they're going to want a traditional resume. And my thought is,
you probably don't want to work there, right?
Probably not the company I want to work for, right? And I know that limits me in some ways, but that's the reality. Yeah.
Right.
So it's exciting. I'm pretty pumped about where this is going, and hopefully, well, as my wife said, she's like 5,000 views. That's great. She goes, "How many job offers do you have?" That's all she cares about, right?
All about the ROI, man.
Yeah, she's like, I don't give a crap about the numbers. She's like, I want you to get a job.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
Gotcha. Well, I wish you the best of luck on Project Awesome, and this is my endorsement. Everyone out there listening, you should hire DJ Waldow. He
Thank
knows
you so
his stuff.
much.
I've seen him speak at a number of events, and that's why I wanted to get him on the show here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And if folks want to go to that URL is ar.gy/hire.
Awesome.
I'm allowed to plug.
So I have one last final question. I'm obligated by social media law to ask you this. What's your take on Google Plus?
I love it.
You're for it?
I love it.
Nice.
Now, at this point, it's a little overwhelming because it's like, now that it's open to everybody, you're getting invites left and right. But I think what Google did right on this one, in fact, Jay Baer, Convince and Convert, has got a wonderful post. Chris Brogan has like the 50 ways to use a Google Plus, and a bunch of other people have written about it. But what I really like about what they're doing is, for the first time, Google didn't try to reinvent the wheel, or reinvent the wave, should I say? What they did was they took, I think, was the good things about Facebook, the good things about Twitter, and just mashed them together. And the Hangout stuff is pretty powerful. I mean, the fact that you can have this this video chat with up to 10 people sync.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
I mean, we could have done this in Google Hangout. Now they have to figure out a way to record that still, but
gotcha.
Pretty powerful stuff. I think they're on to something, and like anything else, we'll have this conversation in 3 months and in a year and see what's happening.
Yeah, definitely want to get you back on. So where can people find you online, DJ?
Socialbutterflyguy.com, or you just go to the Googles and type in DJ Waldow. That's DJ Waldow with a W on the end, and you will find everything you ever want to know, and probably some things that I don't even know exist.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
All right. Thanks for having me.